Sex. Yeah, I said sex. That conversation with my parents when I was in 5th grade was so awkward. My name is Mike Vini and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are new, hello. If you are returning, hi again. And if you are new, please make sure to subscribe. I put out videos every single week. And to let you know a little bit about me, I'm a mental health speaker, author, writer, drummer, and awkward conversation enthusiast. I'm all about the awkward conversations. And today we're actually going to be talking about that because mental health conversations are awkward. And one of the things I want to bring up today, I want to talk a little bit about having those conversations, but we as humans don't like awkward conversations. We avoid them. Most people do. I sometimes try to push them on people, but most people avoid them. And when it comes to mental health challenges, one thing that I want to remind you is that for all people, they are generally isolating, confusing, and frustrating. Even if you love someone who's struggling with a mental health challenge, thinking of them and their challenge, it can be isolating, confusing, and frustrating. That being said, having a conversation about it is going to be awkward. So today I wanted to give you 3 things to think about when you're having these conversations. Now, if you don't want the conversation to be awkward, I want to be very honest with you before you go any further in this video. If you're trying to avoid awkward conversations in mental health, you're making it about you. That's selfish. At the end of the day, the more awkward the conversation is, probably the more effective it's going to be. So here are those 3 things. Number 1, it's important to start the conversation. And one of my favorite ways of starting it is with the question, how can I support you? And I wrote about this in my book here, Transforming Stigma, How to Become a Mental Wellness Superhero. When you ask that question, shut up. Let the person have the space to answer. I just said it before that mental health challenges are isolating, confusing, and frustrating. So to answer a question, to get the conversation going, is really difficult for someone who might be struggling. The other thing that you can say to them is, help me understand. And here's the key. Shut up. Say it and shut up. Give them space. It's going to be an awkward pause, but that's what we're going for here, because the more awkward it is, the more effective it's probably going to be to get the person the help they need. We want to give people space when we talk about these things. You know, even for myself, personally, I talk about this stuff all the time on video. I write about it. So what? When I'm having a rough time, okay, if you approach me and wanted to talk to me about it, I'm going to have some difficulty in articulating what's going on, despite how much I do work around this subject. So really, really important to remember that for everyone, they are isolating, confusing, and frustrating, these mental health challenges. So keep that in mind. So key is start the conversation with, how can I support you? And shut up. Or help me understand and shut up. Okay? Next, number 2, what you can do to keep the conversation going, this is one of my favorite ones, is ask open-ended questions. Who, what, where, when, why, how. I've brought this up in other videos, and something I want to say about this, the first person to ask 3 open-ended questions in a row controls the entire conversation. Probably shouldn't have told you that. And I actually learned that many years ago from a sales trainer, John Clemson, actually, who was coaching me on how to have a sales conversation. And in so many ways, a sales conversation and a mental health conversation are actually very similar. Should think about a video on that, right? But that being said, ask open-ended questions. Who, what, where, when, why, how. When you ask open-ended questions, you get the person talking. If you just ask yes or no questions, well, they can answer with a yes or no, and conversation doesn't go anywhere. And the key is, once you ask a question, shut up and let them speak. Might be awkward, That's okay. We're going for awkward here. So point number one, start the conversation. Have some set phrases to use. Point number two, open-ended questions during the conversation. And number three, this is probably the most important, what not to say. Don't give someone advice who is struggling. We love to give advice as humans, and one of my great dear friends and mentors and therapists actually reminded me that when we decide that we just want to give advice to someone in a conversation, we're making it about us, not the other person. The moment we're in a conversation and I just start to give you advice because I feel like I need to, I'm making it about me and not you. So that's very important to remember in conversations when we start giving advice. The other thing is even saying something like cheer up or everybody has bad days. When someone is struggling in a dark depression or their thoughts are just completely all over the place on another planet, they're not going to be understanding and receptive to simple things like cheer up. It doesn't work like that. Mental health challenges are isolating, confusing, and frustrating. It's not about just being in a bad mood. Okay, very, very important to understand that. So keep that in mind, that you want to be extra sensitive to that. So maybe it works for you to just say a few positive affirmations and a prayer and you feel better. Okay, great. But when someone is really struggling with depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, whatever it is, give them that space and understanding that you might not have the full understanding of what it is that they're going through. And that's really important because a lot of times people have an idea in their mind of what it's like to experience blank, let's say anxiety, who've never really been through it. And I think it's really important, even for myself, someone who lives with anxiety, to realize that my experience with anxiety is totally different than your experience. So I can't even push my own narrative of what it's like on you and really help you. The important thing is to try to understand it from your perspective. So really important is to steer clear of advice, steer clear of cheer up and stuff like that, because what you do when you do that is you put a barrier between you and the person. They're not going to feel safe talking with you. They might get pissed off at you. They might completely shut down. So the goal here is we want to have these conversations that are awkward, but ultimately create a bridge of communication between you and someone who is struggling. So I encourage you to think about that. So again, number one, phrases to start the conversation. Think about some of those. Number two, open-ended questions to keep the conversation going. And number three, avoid giving advice. Okay, it's not the place for that. One thing you can do though, and this has been a recent thing that I've tried, is if you feel that it's a situation where an action needs to be taken on the person's behalf, maybe they are harming themselves, whatever it is, one safe way to go about it is, and I've been doing this lately with friends in general, is when I want to give advice and I'm making it about me, I actually ask for their permission. I say, may I have your permission to share my perspective? And they can say yes or no, and most of the time they say yes. But the cool thing about that is you get permission to share your thoughts at that point. So that buzz, by the way, that was just the doorbell. I don't know why the doorbell is ringing right now. But needless to say, thank you so much for watching my video. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel. And if you like this video, please leave a comment below. Tell me what you liked. Tell me what could be improved. Give me some ideas, actually, for mental health conversations. What do you do that works? What has not worked? I'd love to hear from you. And ultimately, if you found this video helpful and you think someone else would find it helpful, please share it with a friend. So thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Mike Vini, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.